Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Alliance Group podcast and a special edition of the Living Benefits Ambassador Spotlight podcast. We have one of our Living Benefits Ambassadors from 2023, Miss Sharon Mooney from Five Rings Financial, coming to us all the way from Billings, Montana. It is great to have you. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. It's super fun hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, so we're actually here to talk about specifically a passion project of yours. Yeah. You started a Facebook group called the Railroad Retirement Resource that is specifically a place for railroaders and their families to come and kind of have a community. So what is your connection to the railroad in this passion project of yours?
Well, I was, up until last year, a railroad wife, and the railroad community really is a big family. Yep. Once you're in the railroad, it's kind of a way of life. And so my ex-husband now is a railroader with one of the main railroad carriers. And so I really, started this in order to be a resource for railroaders and their families.
There's a lot of really specific questions and challenges that kind of comes with that group, right? Yeah,
it definitely is. And I was like, if I'm confused, if I need support, a lot of these railroaders, they're always traveling and on the road. And, a lot of times the spouses are home, and given the way of the railroader, a lot of times the railroader never knows when they're going to be called out. Some of the engineers are on call 24/7, right? With some of the two-man crews, so it just really limits family work-life balance, so to speak. Right. And so you need the support of your railroad and extended family.
Not just general support, sometimes a place to vent, sometimes a place to ask questions.
Right.
Specifically what your group, although you do cover all of that, it is a community where people can come and just connect, they can vent, they can ask questions, whatever. A lot of it, actually, these questions that come in, they focus around the railroad, right? The actual retirement part, right? The pension part. Tell me a little bit about the situation with a railroader's pension and why that's such a big topic in your group.
It definitely is a big topic because it's confusing, and I think they do that intentionally because they recruit with this great pension plan, which pensions are going away these days.
Pensions are very rare these days, so that's a big ear perker.
It is, and especially if you have military service, your military service can count towards railroad retirement, and so that's a big part of their recruiting. Right. But it's with that, it's very confusing, and there is this website that's called the Railroad Retirement Board, rrb.gov. It's a government site. And you can go there for resources. However, the resources that they have are quite confusing to read.
There's a lot of legalese.
It's very complex and can be pretty, you can get bogged down with too much information.
So they basically need translators.
Exactly. And so I wanted to, I kind of geek out with, some of that.
Yes.
And so I know a little bit about, legal, and fine print jargon. And so I wanted to be able to share, a resource for people to understand and take this big part and make it little bite-sized pieces. Especially, with those of us that we just are blue-collar workers trying to provide a living for our family. We don't need all of this. We need this.
Right. So, just sum it up for me. Tell me what I need to know. So people are kind of flocking to this group to ask these questions, to read other people's questions, and to kind of follow those threads. So there's obviously a huge appetite. You've actually grown this group to over 1,300 members in a very short time. And that's awesome. So now these railroader families, a lot of them are actually spouses, not the railroaders themselves, right?
Right. Yeah.
They have a place to come and to ask their questions, to follow, and just to have that kind of sense of community, which is almost kind of a side benefit to what you've built, to giving them a place to answer their retirement questions. What are you have this group that's kind of going now. There's 1,300 people in this group, and so now you were kind of telling me that you really want to kind of take it up to the next level. What are some of your goals for this group to help give them even more support?
Well, like I mentioned, the railroad is it's a way of life. Mm-hmm. We really are a family across the nation and even Canada, because there are Canadian railroads and lines. Mm-hmm. But with that, it can be very lonely, very lonely way of life, because the spouse is usually gone and on the road living out of hotels, and meanwhile the spouses are back home and holding down the home front.
Yep, absolutely.
So having first a community that knows where you are, that knows the way of life that it is, that's super important. Yep. So that's first. I wanted to build this safe place for people to connect.
To have other people out there that can relate to what they're to their specific challenges as a railroader spouse.
Right.
Yeah.
And then number 2, just really to make sure that there's clear, correct information being given in regards to retirement, even healthcare after retirement, the things that you can do to prepare for retirement, because it can be very intricate and complex. And so there's a lot of things out there that are rumor mill.
Yes.
And it's not correct information. So I've really sought to make the information that I provide correct and make sure that it's been vetted with professionals that I've worked with and people that really know their stuff.
Right.
For example, we have in the group, a lady who actually is a retired railroad retirement board member.
Oh, wow.
And so, just making that information clear, concise, and accurate is kind of my calling.
Absolutely. So you're building this community, or this community is being kind of created as people join the group of people who, they might be a spouse who's just coming in like, I don't know what to make of any of this. Please help me. But you've got other folks, like you said, people who are actually retired members of the board who actually do have the question, do have the answers, and they can come in and correct any information that might be talked about in a certain thread. And so you're really building this community of professionals that can be a resource for the group.
Exactly.
Perfectly named Railroad Retirement Resource Group.
It's a resource.
So let's actually talk about one of those specific challenges that railroaders and their families face, and we've already touched on this a little bit. Retirement, right? Yeah. I know it is a big subject. Obviously, it's a complicated subject. Mm-hmm. What are some of the most common questions that group members have regarding that railroad pension?
Probably number 1 I have is what do I get? What is it? What is railroad retirement? Right. It is a pension. And those pensions are paid out as annuities, which is also, a big word. So then I get, what is an annuity?
Right.
And then, how also different, for some people, this might be a second career. Mm-hmm. So how does that translate into my railroad retirement? As with the railroad being a second career, and then, or if I leave the railroad and I go to another career, what happens to my railroad retirement with that? So just, and these are very, the questions that I get also can be broad, but a lot of railroad retirement questions are very specific.
Right.
And they're specific to individuals and families because they vary.
Right.
It depends
so this is
on
my situation.
It depends on, your craft, your line, if you're part of a union, if you're not, how many years you have in. There's a bunch of different moving parts that come together to bring about your retirement with the railroad. Right. And so navigating some of that can be a little bit overwhelming. Yeah. And so being that place where, sometimes I don't necessarily know the questions, but I do have the resources to go to get those answers for them fairly quickly.
Right. And so one thing that we were talking about off camera, before this interview, you were talking about how what you'd like to do in the future as this group grows and as you want to provide even more resources, for the members, is you're going to actually be trying to bring in experts to do things like webinars with and interviews, and to kind of put them up to give them a platform so that they can actually help. And really, what you described, you want it to work as kind of a connector, right?
Exactly.
Not necessarily that Sharon has all the answers, but Sharon can bring the people to the table that might be able to have answers for the community. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes, I am a intentional connector when it comes to these sort of things, because I don't know everything, and I worked very hard at being good at what I do.
Right.
But there are other people who are amazing professionals in their field, and those are all resources that railroad families need. And so, yes, bringing in those guest experts to be able to say, hey, this is a little bit of a subject that you might find some value in and find some information. I did, so I'm sure that other people would as well.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I definitely, I pride myself in surrounding myself with some amazing professionals.
Well, perfect example. We had we just recorded actually an awesome phone interview with an estate planning attorney that you set up, and you conducted the interview to give the answers to people that might be having questions about estate planning within that railroad. So that's a perfect example of the kind of people that you're trying to connect, bring to the table. Not necessarily that Sharon Mooney has all the answers, but you can provide people with the right folks to talk about with these subjects. I think it's awesome. It's incredible what you're doing. You're doing fantastic work. You actually do have expertise, though, in what you do with being a life insurance expert, and there are some very specific solutions that you can provide as well to this railroading community. Things like living benefits, tax-free retirement plans, college saving plans for kids. Talk about some of the things that you do have expertise in, and how they can help railroad families. Right.
So a big thing to know about railroad retirement is the railroad retirement has two different tiers, tier 1 and tier 2. And those are both taxed federally because they're pensions.
Right.
And so they are not taxed at the state level, but they are taxed at the federal level. And so making sure that you're working with a planner to diversify our tax buckets in retirement is crucial with that. And so I'm able to offer a diversification option because I work specifically in tax-free accounts.
A lot of people talk about diversifying your investments, but they don't think about diversifying your tax risk.
Yes.
Can you kind of tell me a little bit about what that means to diversify your tax risk?
Yeah. So making sure that, we all pay taxes. We all have to. We're law-abiding citizens. So we know that that's going to happen. And so we plan for that. Right. Then you have the other options of, your IRAs and such like that that are put into after tax,
right?
And then you can access them tax-free up to a point.
Roth IRAs, municipal bonds, but also life insurance, cash value.
Also, if you grow wealth under the umbrella of life insurance, you're able to, access those funds later on.
Absolutely.
Tax-free. And so making sure that you have these different vehicles that also you can turn on at different times.
Exactly.
To get the most out of your retirement, because especially railroaders, we're the backbone of America, the backbone of the economy.
Absolutely.
And it's hard work. But if you're not smart about having those in place and a plan, whenever you get to that point, you're going to get to the end and it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be really something that maybe you don't have the best plan set up. And so working with a professional that knows a little bit about railroad retirement, that knows a little bit about these tax diversification options is really, really important.
It is crucial. We don't know what taxes are going to do in the future, right? So, if you got your 401k, you've got your pensions, those things are going to be taxed as income when you take them out in retirement. Something that you can help people with is set up a different bucket that actually would be tax-free, so that if taxes shoot up in the future, which a lot of folks think that might happen. A lot of folks think that's the only thing that can happen in the future is that taxes go up from where they are now. It would be nice to have a bucket that if taxes are sky high, you could access some income tax-free until maybe those rates go back down. It's a very important part of retirement planning and is that tax planning. So that's one thing you can help with. Living benefits life insurance as well. This is something that everybody needs, living benefits life insurance. You can tell us more about what that is, but specifically railroaders have some very interesting specific needs for living benefits life insurance. So tell us a little bit about living benefits life insurance and what that is.
Yeah, so living benefits life insurance is this new innovative life insurance that you don't have to die in order to access that pool of money. Right. It covers for critical illness, chronic illness, terminal illness. These are benefits that you are way more likely to need versus a death insurance. Right. And so, which is life insurance is death insurance.
Exactly.
It's just clever marketing. We call it life insurance, you know?
That's right. So everyone needs life insurance.
Everybody needs life insurance.
Right.
But everybody needs living benefits as well because, and especially in the railroad, there's a lot of travel and you are risking, a lot whenever you even walk out your front door.
That's very true.
But 90% of railroaders travel for work. And so you really are increasing your risk of something happening. And then also it's hard on your body. Yeah. It's very, my ex-husband was a welder on the maintenance team. And so that's very physical. That's also can be slightly dangerous.
Yes.
Yes,
it's not the safest occupation out there.
It just, there is an increased, a little bit of an increased risk with working the railroad.
Right.
So you have to have living benefits. Railroad families have to have that just in case. It's kind of also, I call it your medical emergency fund. Living benefits are.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want, if a lot of railroaders are the sole breadwinner.
Right.
Because with the schedules of railroaders, the spouse can't necessarily work and raise a family and take care of the needs of the house. Right. and all of that. And so if that goes away, a lot of
single income families in that railroad community.
Yeah. And so if that goes away, that's your family is up a hill. And so making sure that we're protecting, in case of accident or injury or sickness.
So to kind of sum up there, living benefits life insurance is a life insurance plan, which everyone needs. If you pass away, your family's going to get a lump sum of money. But what it adds is also access to that money if you suffer a cancer diagnosis, have a heart attack, stroke, any critical, chronic, or terminal illness. There's all these things that are covered that would get you access while you're still alive after you've suffered some sort of illness or injury. And that's just absolutely crucial. It gives you the money that you need, while you're out of work, right? Helps that income replacement and basically gets you back up on your feet and back out to the railroad and earning that money for your family.
Right.
It's a really important thing, and I know you talk about it a lot, and it's something that you actually specialize in. The other thing that we haven't discussed that you can help with specifically is savings plans for kids, which is kind of along the same lines, cash value life insurance on a child. Tell us why that can be so important.
Right. Well, I think as a parent, we want to have an even better future for our kids than what we had, right? That's all we really want is our kids to have a better life than what, we had. Not that I had a bad life at all,
right?
But I just want better for them.
Of course. That's what all parents want.
And so, really making sure that I've set them up for success as best I can. And that comes with making sure I'm putting aside funds for them as best I can. And I always want to make my dollar work smarter, not harder. And so it just made sense for me to be able to cover my kids, not only with life insurance. They're young, they're highly insurable. Right. And number two is those living benefits. Now, they're not allowed to use either one of those.
Right.
Ever.
Nothing bad is going to happen.
Nothing bad. However, I consistently see GoFundMes for families with kids that have been, diagnosed with leukemia or any other sort of disease that it happens. It happens.
Unfortunately,
it does. And so I'm covered if that happens.
Right.
Again, they're not allowed to use it. But.
Right. But really, with a child's life insurance plan, the life insurance and living benefits is kind of a side.
Yes. And so the only thing that they're allowed to use is live this, long, happy, healthy, lovely life. And then I've been putting into this plan that is an indexed account, which goes up and over with the market. So it's completely safe. And then they can access it when they get older to help pay off college if they want to go to college. Yeah. If they decide not to go to college, though, it's not something that's locked in like a 529 plan or something like that, that has those strict, parameters.
Right. It's a little more if it's for school and then you can't access it. Right. Exactly.
So it's a little bit more flexible than that. So we're able to, if they want to start a business. What if they're an entrepreneur and they're like Mom and wants to have their own business? So they can use it to start a business. They're both, they're both boys. Both my boys are, and then so weddings. If I want to help pay for their wedding,
absolutely.
Because they're both cute and they'll be, a hot commodity. But also, if they want to leave it and let it grow and let it get, really catching some momentum, they can take it out at retirement. And both of them have over $1 million in an account for them that they just turns it on and it's tax free, does not get to be touched by Uncle Sam. And then I'm going to be Mom of the Year.
Absolutely. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. That's that tax-free bucket that you set up. So I actually have these permanent life insurance cash value plans, these IUL plans set up for both my boys as well. I just know that I know enough about compound interest that the earlier you get it started, the more powerful it's going to be. So setting up a plan like this, these plans that you can help people with at as early as possible. You can do it as early as 10 days, even if it's a small amount, 50, $100 a month over the course of 50, 60 years, it can do amazing things.
Well, the time value of money concept, you know, if you start early, the amount of money that you need to put in to reach a goal can be smaller. If you start later, then you're going to have to increase that amount to reach that same goal. And so you really want to be smart about it. Again, we're not saying that anything bad's going to happen to our kids by having these plans. All we're doing is we're preparing and we're working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. I mean, when I put them up for my kids, when I created them and put them in place, $150 a month for each of them, I did that just with the cash value in mind, thinking I'm just getting this compound interest snowball started as soon as possible. I know that that's a smart move regardless. I know that it's in, as you said, it's safe money, so you don't lose money when the market goes down. And I just had the cash value in mind. The life insurance portion of it, the living benefits portion of it, that's great. I'm glad that I have those boxes checked. That's not why I did it, but it's nice to know that that's also, those boxes have also been checked. But it's all about the cash value, and it's something that, you know, my boys are 7 and 5 now, and so we've got 7 and 5 years of growth, and those accounts are looking pretty nice, especially times where we are right now with the market going down. It's nice to have some money in an IUL that isn't going down when the market is.
Most definitely.
So tell us how railroaders can join your Facebook group.
So it's Railroad Retirement Resource, and if you just search for that in the Facebook search bar and click on Join Group, we do vet the people that want to join. Make sure you have a railroad connection.
Make sure you're in there for the right reasons.
Exactly. So we also want to make it a safe space too, to make sure that people are, whatever they say, you know, in the group, it's a safe place to come if they need to vent or if they need to, let off some steam. We all know the life. We all know the ins and outs and the highs and lows that come with that. And so just making sure that everybody is respectful and has each other's best interest is what we want.
It's important to protect the integrity of the community. Make sure that everyone in there fits the description of who should be in there. So that's what keeps the quality of the group so high. And it is an excellent group. I'm a huge fan of what you've been doing, Sharon, setting this up. I'm sure there's lots of people in our audience right now that are very grateful for what you've done. So I want to thank you on their behalf for what you're doing for the railroad community. I know you have big plans coming up with lots of new content.
Lots of stuff coming. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's been really awesome watching this group grow to 1,300. And by the time some people are seeing this, it might be, well over that. So congratulations on your success. We really look forward to work with you more as a Living Benefits Ambassador. And thanks for making the trip to Atlanta.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful.
Awesome.
Listen to this interview and more on the Alliance Group podcast.